Hey, Dragon Slayers. This morning I was 243, and this is about 4 hours after eating, and my blood glucose is 112. So today's video might be longer than my standard 5-minute video because I think it's important for you to understand my full story, and that way you can understand where I'm coming from, what inspired me to become the diabetes dragon slayer. So my story started back in, really we'll have to go to college, and I was really thin. I know it's hard to believe because I weigh so much now, but growing up I was always the tiniest, skinniest guy in the room. So in sixth grade, I was probably right around 5 feet or less. And by the time I was in seventh grade, going to eighth grade, I was still barely like 5'4". And then over that summer, I grew 4 inches. So I was going into eighth grade at about 5'8" or 9, and then I was still rail thin. In high school, I was 6'3", but I weighed like 160 pounds in 11th grade, so I was super super fragile, and I got made fun of all the time. My dad called me chicken legs. I was always string bean, and then I started working out. I gained a ton of muscle, newbie gains, as they say. So going from my sophomore year of, I guess, my junior year of high school to my senior year of high school, I went from around 265, 270 to just shy of like 190. So I would say I was in the upper 180s ish. And then in college, I kept working out. I was pretty obsessive with working out. I got up to 215. I was still pretty lean, maybe sub 10% body fat. And my workouts were crazy. I used to work out about 3 hours a day, 6 days a week. So I would lift weights for an hour and a half, and then I'd go run 5 miles, or I guess jog lightly 5 miles. So I would do that Monday through Saturday, and I did that for years. And my diet was not very good. I had a standard American diet, lots of carbs, lots of eating out, but I never gained weight because I was super, super active. Then I had a martial arts accident. Let's see here. I think it was the end of my sophomore year of college, and I tore my ACL, tore my MCL, and shattered my kneecap. So yeah, I went from, running 5 miles a day, lifting weights, to basically being in a wheelchair for 9 months. It was super, super depressing. And that was when I started to gain weight, the bad kind of weight. I would, for almost 2 years straight, because I was having trouble walking. I remember I left off leg pressing like well over 770 pounds. When I came back to it 2 years later, I couldn't even do 50 pounds. I could barely walk for 9 months. Even after I could walk more normal, I certainly couldn't run. I couldn't jump. It was really, really bad. And so during that like 2 year depression of, I would eat ice cream and king size candy bars almost like 2, 3 times a week. And that was I just ate my feelings. I've always been a emotional eater. And yeah, so over the course of that period of time, I ended up gaining about 40 pounds of fat, right? Like the word is pure fat. So I went from 215 to around 255, just really tubby, and I felt horrible. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get in shape again. And so I worked out hardcore again. I spent 4 months at my old routine. Of course, less weights and less intensity, but I did the 4 months straight. It was like 123 days because I remember tracking it. And I worked out 3 hours a day, 6 days a week. And I lost almost all of the weight. And I was in really good shape, and I felt great. But this is the problem with insulin resistance. And like I remember back then I used to pound like multiple cups of brown rice, and I used to eat like chicken breast and broccoli because I thought that's what was healthy. And yeah, it was just, I didn't understand health back then. I thought I did, but I really didn't. And so we're just going to fast forward through all of that. So now you know where I came from. I've been from every end of the spectrum. I've been super skinny, I've been super fit, I've been really strong. I mean, I've done it all. And now I ended up, let's see here. So I wrote some notes so I get all my dates right, and I looked up all of my old data. So in December, part of my old job was we had to get a yearly physical essentially where they check your blood glucose and like your lipids and all of that stuff. So in December of 2017, my A1C was 5.1. And I thought, I thought I was fine. I never thought anything of it. And then in December of 2018, when I did the test again, so 1 year later, my A1C was 10.7. And I was like, okay, that's weird. I had no symptoms. I wasn't, urinating more frequently. I didn't feel tired all the time necessarily. I had no symptoms of high blood sugar whatsoever. So I didn't believe it. I thought the test was wrong, right? Like I got the results and I was like, this can't be right. Whatever. I just kind of ignored it. Went about my merry little way. And then it was about 6 months later, in June of 2019, I went back to the doctor and my A1C was 12.7. And that was like devastating, right? Like diabetes confirmed, like hardcore diabetes confirmed. And my A1C was higher than anyone that I personally know that I've heard of. I know there are people online that have had much higher A1Cs, but even my friends and family that have diabetes, I mean, their highest A1C was like 9.1. And I know another guy's, his was like 7.5, right? So I won the award for highest A1C that I personally knew of at the time and still know of today. What are your A1Cs at? Drop it down in the comments below. I'm curious to see just how bad off we all are sometimes. So so this was June of 2019. My fasted blood glucose was 323. My triglycerides were, so your fasted blood glucose should be under 100. My triglycerides were 167. Your triglycerides should be under, I think, 70. I don't remember the exact number. It might be 100. Don't quote me on that. I had protein in my urine, stage 1 kidney failure. My blood pressure was 145 over 110, and I had high cholesterol of 269. So I was just in terrible shape. And I couldn't believe it because I knew that my diet wasn't that great, but I always thought that I was healthy, up until this point. But I had to face the reality that, like, holy crap, I am not healthy. I'm not healthy at all. I don't know what health is. Like, it was a very humbling moment. And so I thought, okay, I'd heard about fasting and I always wanted to do no medication. So from day one, they gave me metformin. And I remember being in the doctor's office when I got the 12.7 diagnosis. They gave me a shot of insulin in the office and they sent me home with the packet of insulin. And I was depressed, man. I was like, no, I am not going to live like this. I refuse to live like this. And so I never took the metformin and I never took the insulin. So, other than the one shot that they gave me in the doctor's office that day, I never took any insulin or any drugs of any kind. So, that's just how I choose to live. I don't think that drugs are inherently bad. I just think that, and this is personal opinion, I think that medication simply is a band aid. It does not fix the root cause of the problem. And that's why I choose to do no medication. I think medication absolutely has its place, right? Like, if you are dying, take the medication. If it's an emergency, take the medication. If you have, like, if there's anything wrong with you that is life threatening or absolutely debilitating, absolutely take the medication. But I think that your end goal should be to wean yourself off of the medication, fix the root cause of the issue so that you don't need the medication anymore. Because all medication has side effects. Like, I can't think of a single example of a medication that does not have any side effects. And that's the problem. Natural remedies take a long time, but generally have zero side effects or very mild side effects, right? Whereas medications act quickly, but it's always at the cost of something. You turn one knob and it flips a different switch somewhere else, right? And so I just don't want to go down that rat hole where you take the diabetes medication to fix the diabetes, but then it causes complications with your liver. And then you take the liver medication to fix that, and then it causes complications with your heart. And then you take the heart medication to fix that, and then it causes complications with your eyes, right? Like, it's a snowball. Like, it doesn't end. I don't know anyone who has started medication and didn't without any other changes, right? I don't know anybody that has taken medication, not changed their lifestyle at all, and then eventually came off of medication. That never happens. Like, I could be wrong. If you know of an example, please put the comment down below. But that's the cycle. The cycle is you pop a pill and you mask the problem, and the problem just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And so you have to take more pills, and you take more pills, and those pills have side effects, and you take pills for those side effects. It's a vicious cycle. Again, my opinion, you may feel differently, and that's fine. This whole channel is just sharing my story and showing you how I was able to reverse my A1C and my type 2 diabetes with no medication. So, getting back to the subject at hand, um, we were on June of 2019. So yeah, just everything that could be wrong with me at that time was pretty wrong with me. Well, to make matters, so I did a 7-day fast. So as soon as I got home from the doctor's office, I did a 7-day water fast. Man, that was hard. My niece and nephew were in town, and my sister-in-law. And so it was like the 4th day into my fast. The kids, they were like, I want to say like 10 and maybe 5 at the time, but they wanted to go to Golden Corral. It was like their favorite place. Their mom wouldn't take them. So, good old uncle, I ended up taking them to Golden Corral 4.5 days into a fast. And it was torturous. I have never had to use that much willpower in my entire life. I was sitting there watching them eat, smelling all the smells, and just sipping on water. And just like, oh man, everything in me just wanted to take a bite of something. But I persevered because I'm like, I'm going to knock this out of the bud, right? And I came off of that fast. I went on strict keto for 4 months. I did not eat a carb. I lived on a ultra high fat, diet with moderate protein. And the next time I went to the doctor, so it was in September of 2019. So that was 4 months later. My A1C was 7.4. So I had gotten it down from a 12.7 to a 7.4. And the protein in the urine was gone. The triglycerides were from like 167 to like less than 70. The high cholesterol had almost completely reversed. My blood pressure was normal. And that was just 4 months of strict keto, right? 7-day fast into 4 months of strict keto. And the doctor was blown away. She could not believe that I had accomplished all of that with zero medication and zero exercise. And she was like, she said in her 25 years of practice, she had never seen someone's like numbers get corrected that quickly. So it was a month after that I ended up getting laid off. And so I lost my insurance. I was a contractor for about 2 years, and I still was low carb, but I would cheat. I would cheat pretty regularly, at least once a week or so. But I was still like mostly low carb. And I went back to the doctor. So we're going to fast forward. This is 2 years later. My A1C was 8.4. And again, he wanted to put me on metformin. He wanted to put me on other medication, cholesterol medication. And I was like, no, like I know what to do. I've been lazy and I haven't been doing it. And I hadn't checked my blood sugar in, like over a year. And so I was like, this is why I say your glucometer is your best friend. This does not lie. And so I did my usual thing. I went on a 14-day fast this time, water fast, and then I went mostly just low carb. I wasn't keto at this point, and I'll explain in my keto video like why I stopped keto in more detail. But I was very low carb for 3.5 months. Came back, my A1C was 6.1. So that's the lowest A1C I have had since I was diagnosed. So in 2017, or sorry, in 2018, December, I was 10.7. And or sorry, I'm mixing it all up. In 2019, I was 12.7. And that was June of 2019. And then in November of 2021, so basically a little bit over 2 years later, I was 6.1. Right. And so that was for 3.5 months. I went from 8.4 to 6.1, zero medication, zero exercise. Like I have been pretty lazy about the exercise, which is funny because I will go through periods where I'll exercise very regularly. I have not exercised since I started this channel. I plan to fix that. I know it is the fifth tenet. The thing is that exercise is the icing on the cake, right? So if you do the first four things well, the no sugar, no carbs, no bad oils, right? And then you cut out just like all of the processed food, all of the junk. When you get to the final phase of just, and obviously intermittent fasting, right? Intermittent fasting, extended fasting, step 4, and then step 5, exercise. It's just the icing on the cake. Everything that I have done, I've done with virtually no exercise. And you do not have to exercise to lower your blood sugar. You don't. It's a myth. Exercise has a whole slew of other benefits, but it is not necessary to correct or reverse type 2 diabetes, contrary to popular belief. So, right now, let's see, I'm going to show you guys where I have been, my average glucose. I check my blood sugar like 26 plus times a day. So when I look at my 90-day average, I'm trying to get the camera to focus on that. There we go. My 90-day average is 107. So that translates to an A1C of 5.4. So I believe that anything under like 5.6 or under is considered normal range. So I am officially in the pre diabetic range, and I'm hoping by April of this year, I will be in the non diabetic range. But I don't want to just be non diabetic. I want to be optimal, right? And so optimal starts with an A1C of around, I think, 4.8. And so that's kind of my end goal is I want to try to achieve and maintain an A1C of 4.8. And I believe that I can do it with all of the steps that I've outlined to you guys. And that is a very long-winded way of just sharing my story, my data. I would love to hear all of your stories. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, share your stories with me. I'll respond to as many people as I possibly can. And just know that together, you and I will slay the dreaded diabetes dragon.